Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. As you guys can see, we do have the truck in the third bay again, and it's draining coolant yet again. You guys might be wondering, well, why is it doing that? Well, unfortunately, we put the truck back together last week, went for a couple of test drives, didn't really notice anything. And then I've been driving it this past week, and I started smelling a little bit of coolant. Not a ton, but just a faint hint of coolant. I'm like, what the heck? Because I pressure washed everything underneath the truck when we finished cleaning up. So there was no like active coolant anywhere. There wasn't any, it wasn't dripping down anywhere. There's pretty much no remnants of any coolant on the bottom of the truck. Because like I said, I used a new pressure washer system that we put in a couple of months ago. Just use the nozzle on the bottom half of the block, the suspension, that stuff. I tried to stay away from any of the electronics. Did let the truck dry for 24 hours after I used the pressure washer. Didn't see any problems with that. Truck started right up. So, yes, the motor is meant to get wet from road grime and whatnot, but still, just try not to hit the alternator, stuff like that. So, unfortunately, like I said, I started getting a faint hint of coolant smell. And what that was, it was actually the oil cooler to the back of the water pump gasket. You guys might remember that we had a paper gasket that came with the AC Delco kit. Well, come to find out, that gasket sucks and it doesn't seal properly. So we've got a slow leak coming out of that paper gasket. I'll show you a picture here. You guys can see a little bit of green coolant coming out the bottom of that gasket, and it's actually coming out the side of it as well. So that leads us here to today. It's been actually exactly 1 week since we did the water pump and the radiator hose swap, but what we're doing today is not taking any of that stuff apart. What we're doing is actually removing the studs from the back of that water pump and putting in a new steel gasket. So I don't know why AC Delco provided a paper gasket. I started Googling it after I did the pump swap. Unfortunately, I found a bunch of threads saying, hey, the paper gasket leaked. Hey, the paper gasket leaked. Hey, why is my oil cooler, or why do I still have a leak after replacing the water pump? Turns out a lot of those guys used a paper gasket. So to fix this once again, we did have to take the truck apart. I did skip a bunch of those steps just to make this video a little bit shorter. But what those steps were, you guys will see. We took off the inner fender liner. That's for the driver's side. We took off the boost tube up top. That way we get a little bit more room trying to get to that water pump on the bottom. And you guys will see we took off the skid plate, the plastic one, the metal one's back there. And you guys can see we are draining the coolant yet again. And here is the drain plug. So, I know I just covered that in about 20 seconds, but it's probably 15 minutes of work that you guys didn't need to see. So here are the few tools and parts that we're gonna need. The first thing we did, we ordered a brand new steel gasket. I actually had to pick this up from my local dealership. Part number on this is going to be 971-88663. The next fix, you guys might think this is hairspray. This is actually copper spray gasket. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this copper spray gasket from Permatex. Part number is 80697. We're going to spray that on a steel gasket. We're going to spray both sides of that, let that dry properly. Then we're going to install it in the truck. And the last thing we need to do to get those studs out properly, they are brand new studs, so we shouldn't have a problem getting them out. But we actually bought an external torx set. This is from Lisle, part number 26280. And I believe we're going to be using the E8. If you guys look on the back, so 6mm, I believe that's going to be E8, so number 12 or 1/4 inch stud. So I think that's what we'll be using. I will confirm and let you guys know. But I think this tool set was $25, something like that on Amazon. We'll have links to everything down below. Maybe not the gasket. Like I said, I had to buy that locally, but maybe when this video gets published, we'll be able to find it online. So, since we're waiting for the coolant system to continue to drain it, we might as well go ahead and spray the gasket. Basically, the instructions just say spray it like 8 to 10 inches away. And go ahead and spray it, once per side. So, I don't think this is going to be anything too special. There you go. Well, let's... Alright, we got one side covered in copper. Actually, this side right here. So unfortunately, I have no idea what the drying time on this copper gasket stuff is. So we'll go ahead, spray the one side, let it dry, flip it over, spray the other side. and get this gasket put in. All right, guys, as you can see, I'm kind of took a bath in coolant. Didn't think there would be that much coolant in the driver's side with that oil cooler, but man, there was a ton. It might be the fact that that's actually tied directly into the block, so there might be coolant, you know, backed up in the block that is lower than what's in the radiator. Yeah, that kind of makes sense. So we ended up getting the 12mm nuts off. There's one there. I know that says that's 11mm, but the other 12mm somewhere around here. And then we did end up getting both studs off. There's one there and one there. And that ended up being a E7. So the Lisle tool did its job, went straight on the edge of that bolt, knocked it loose, and it came right out. So thankfully didn't have any issues with stripping bolts or anything like that. These are brand new bolts. It is a brand new water pump, so that might have something to do with it. But for my hardware, we were able to save it. We're not going to have to end up removing the water pump, taking the crank pulley, the fan, any of that stuff off. It was just getting those two nuts, those two studs out. And then I pulled down on the oil cooler pipe a little bit, and that's when I took my bath. I've cleaned up a little bit. I'm going to go finish cleaning up more. But the last thing I wanted to update you guys was the gasket. Did end up spraying both sides, so you can see there's one side there, there's one side there. And yes, I do have one of those needle tools from Harbor Freight stuck in a vise. I don't have anything else to like clamp that down with. I thought I had some other stuff, but kind of quick thinking, and you know, I ended up putting it over there. Now, I did not paint that in here. I took it on that needle tool, went outside, sprayed the other side, came back in. We're gonna let that dry for probably 15-20 minutes, something like that. The other side was completely dry. It was a little bit tacky, and since it still had a little bit of tack on it, I did not want to face that, put that tacky side down on a cloth, spray it, and then try to pull that off, and then that tacky side stick to the cloth. So that's probably a better way to spray it, is using a hook and or a piece of wire, whatever you guys have, and end up going from there. And I think for the reinstall, what we're going to do is, I think I'm actually going to take the stud, take the nut, put that on there, so it's kind of like a bolt, and you know, basically get it fed through the pipe, fed through the gasket, fed through the water pump, hand tighten a little bit, and then we'll use that E7 socket from the Lisle toolkit, tighten the stud down, and then we can tighten the nut down. Alright guys, I think you can see that there is the pipe right there going from the oil cooler to the back of the water pump. You can see a little bit of copper gasket spray on there, and we've got the studs put back in, and I tightened everything as tight as I could get it. So we should be good to go. If you guys will look, I did pour all of the coolant that we captured out. There's a little bit left there, and we've got a little bit. Basically, it's turn the truck on to cycle the coolant, but you will see one thing missing. The boost tube is missing from the top, going into the bottom of the intercooler. I have that over here. And the reason the boost tube is off is because I couldn't get all the reach that I needed just through the side there. I ended up taking that boost tube out. Unfortunately, I destroyed one of the T-bolt clamps. I think what it's called. It's not just a hose clamp, it's a T-bolt clamp. I don't know if those even are available, you know, from AutoZone or whatnot. They've got Dorman V-band clamps, so I'd imagine the T-clamps might be available as a Dorman product as well. So I need to, unfortunately, go find one of those, put one of those on, and then I could fire the truck up. But what I plan on doing tonight is hosing everything down with a pressure washer system, and we're going to call it good. So this wasn't too bad of a repair, just a couple specialized tools. I needed to get those external torques or those E sockets, got that set, and I had to go buy that copper spray gasket as well as find that steel gasket. The other thing worth mentioning is I didn't have a lot of slack in the oil cooler tube, so I ended up having to kind of like raise it up, raise it down, and I was able to get all of the paper gasket off. And guys, that paper gasket, even though it was only in there for a week, it was already disintegrated. Like, I grabbed part of it, it just tore right in half, and I wasn't like manhandling it, I just touched it and it fell apart. So now I completely understand why we had that little bit of a leak there. So, but the initial leak test, you know, just, you know, putting coolant back in the system and filling it as high as the top of the coolant jug. And I pretty much put, I think, 5 or 6 gallons of coolant back in there because that stuff's pretty heavy, and I had to put that in. And we probably only have maybe like half a gallon left, if that, to put back in the truck. So And so that's actually pretty much gonna be it for today's video. You know, with that broken clamp, I can't really move any further with the truck. But like I said, we are gonna clean everything up. We'll bust out the pressure washer. So if you guys like this video, hit that like button. If you guys want to see more truck content, we did get some new parts coming in today in the last couple days, and we'll be working on that over the next week, and you guys will see that in the next couple weeks. If you guys want to see that, hit that subscribe button, turn on your bell notifications. And if you guys want to help support the channel, like I had mentioned earlier in the video, I will have links to the gasket, the spray, the Lisle Tools. We'll have links to all that down below, and we'll probably include the water pump stuff from the previous video as well. So check out those links down below, and make sure you check out our website, BonecrrusherSS.com. Thanks, guys. Have a great one.